Everyone from the ACLU to the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops to the U.S. Chamber of Commerce supports this legislation.
Legislation to protect pregnant workers that once drew bipartisan support is now subject to a lawsuit after a federal agency issued regulations to accommodate abortion. The Pregnant Workers Fairness Act is a federal law designed to protect expecting mothers in the workforce so that they can have a healthy pregnancy and a healthy baby. During congressional debates, lawmakers were clear that the law does not require employers to accommodate abortion. But the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission is mandating that employers nationwide must accommodate employee abortions. The U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops have filed a preemptive lawsuit to protect religious liberty. Daniel Blomberg, Vice President and Senior Counsel for the Becket Fund for Religious Liberty, is an attorney on the case and can tell us more about it. Daniel, welcome to Pro-Life Weekly. This looks like a preemptive strike on behalf of the U.S. bishops to protect their institutions from having to pay for and provide abortion leave. Why did they have to resort to this move?
Thank you, Monse. It's great to be here. And yeah, it's very much a defensive shield. And you're exactly right. They had to resort to it precisely because, unfortunately, the federal government hijacked a bipartisan, common sense, uncontroversial law to protect pregnant women and unborn babies and turned it into an abortion accommodation mandate. That's not what anyone intended. It's not necessary, and it's not helpful. So that's what the USCCB is trying to fix that problem, along with other Catholic ministries like Catholic University of America, the Diocese of Lake Charles, and the Diocese of Lafayette, all working together to try to make sure that in America we can protect pregnant mothers and pregnant and unborn children without having to accommodate abortion.
You know, this feels like deja vu. This is something that the bishops have dealt with in the past. There was overwhelming support for universal health care, and all of a sudden abortion was slipped in through the back room. Here we are again almost a decade later, and you're trying to protect mothers and their babies, and again abortion is being stuck in. What is going on with the government's regulatory process that this is allowed to happen?
Well, that's exactly the problem. This really does feel like the Little Sisters of the Poor case all over again, where over a decade ago, the Obama administration chose to force religious ministries across the nation to pay for abortion drugs and for contraceptives and include them as part of their health care plans. And now after, court ruling after court ruling after court ruling saying that was both unnecessary and illegal, we're right back where we started. And unfortunately, now it's the EEOC that's trying to require every workplace in America, hundreds of millions of Americans working in these different workplaces, over 100 million Americans, and they're all going to have to accommodate abortion, even though Congress not only didn't say a single word about abortion in the Pregnant Workers Fairness Act, every supporter in Congress, every single one, expressly said this is uncontroversial, this is simple, this is common sense. And one even said, I can't imagine anything less controversial. And in modern America, you cannot say that about an abortion accommodation mandate.
Right. Well, let's get into that a little bit. When this passed in 2022, the support for mothers was overwhelming. What are the consequences then if the bishops lose this case?
Well, it's really significant. So now like I said, almost every private workplace in the country that has more than 15 employees is going to have to accommodate abortions. And so most of these workplaces, especially Catholic workplaces, are already fully committed to and want to support pregnant mothers and unborn children. They're doing that already, and they're very excited about it. But what they're going to be required to do now is, because they're protecting pregnant mothers, expectant mothers, and unborn babies, they're also going to have to accommodate abortions. And this will mean changing the way they talk about pro-life policies in the workplace. If they have employees that are talking about their beliefs, their Catholic beliefs, supporting the sanctity of human life, then that could be understood by the EEOC to create a kind of threatening or hostile environment, which would be a basis for a lawsuit against that religious ministry. And so this is going to end up being a type of speech restriction on Catholic workplaces, Catholic ministries, requiring those employers to limit the ability to express pro-life views in the workplace, because otherwise EEOC, which has obviously shown itself very willing to push abortion into the workplace, can find that that's a violation of the law.
Well, it sounds like the Department of Labor has really overstepped its bounds. Is there anything coming up that might restrict their ability to force these regulations and accommodations on religious employers and just people who disagree with abortion altogether?
Very much so. There's several lawsuits nationwide now that are seeking to keep the law back to its intended purpose. They're trying to protect the Pregnant Workers Fairness Act and ensure that law does what it's intended to do and doesn't force an abortion accommodation mandate on the country. There are cases pending in several different jurisdictions, new ones that are being brought. And my firm, on behalf of USCCB, will be in front of a federal judge next week asking for protection for the plaintiffs in our case.
Well, we're going to be watching that very carefully. Godspeed, Daniel.
Thank you, Monse.